Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Biren Gandhi and I am founder and CEO of Speak to IoT and SMART India. Speak to IoT's mission is to provide a simple, secure and universal voice AI platform for connecting everything through voice. And SMART India is its subsidiary focused on the South Asian continent to enable various devices connected for smart home, smart enterprises and smart industries. I have been fortunate to be part of some of the great companies in Silicon Valley over the last 20-25 years, mainly in the category creation space. First of all, I was humbled and fortunate to be part of Facebook when it was creating the whole new space of social networking. Followed by that, I was part of Zynga in the CTO capacity. Zynga was well known from its Farmville and other franchises, mainly in the social gaming industry. And more recently, I was fortunate to be part of Cisco, where we created the whole domain of Internet of Things. I was fortunate to be part of that small team, handful of people who created the initial momentum of Internet of Things and strive to connect the more than 25 billion or 50 billion or trillions of devices over the entire globe. So let's dive into today's presentation of the sound of light. It's a great anecdote as you see on the screen. After wrapping up the session on the chapter of light and before moving on to the chapter of sound, the science teacher told the class that, hey class, now you've got a sound understanding of light, but please don't take sound lightly. Funny, isn't it? Aren't we doing the same thing? All of us gathered here as part of the conference, we have great understanding of light. We have sound knowledge of light for that matter. But are we taking sound lightly? Are we really considering the sound of light? Because if we look back in the history, we have seen we have been building some amazing buildings throughout the world, great architectures. We are seeing some unbelievable buildings on the mountain tops and whatnot. We are seeing some fabulous spiritual buildings providing peace and prosperity to the world. We are seeing some connected buildings which are taking the technology to the whole new levels, new heights. We are even seeing the living buildings which are environmentally friendly and more responsible to the planet. And last but not the least, we are also seeing smart connected buildings or so-called smart buildings which are highly connected, highly wired or wireless. But let me ask you this one big question. Have we seen a talking building? Are we seeing listening buildings? I'm sure the answer is no, because we haven't seen talking or listening buildings just yet up until now. We might have seen smart buildings, but have we really seen intelligent buildings, not just smart, beyond smartness, the natural cognitive intelligence? Are we seeing those kind of buildings, those kind of architectures in our community? The answer is big red no. And you might wonder, you might ask why we are not seeing these kind of architecture, this kind of connectedness in our society. So obvious answers come to mind is whether it's a capability, it's a competence problem, it's a courage issue, somebody's taking bold decisions and making it happen. But I don't think so. I don't think it's a question of competitiveness, it's a question of capabilities, it's a question of courage. But other three C's actually matter the most for the development of this intelligent buildings, intelligent society. So what are those top challenges? Here are the three top challenges as I've seen during my experience in IoT, in the connected world, in the social networking, in the social gaming world, and a plethora of technological advancements. The biggest motivator or biggest obstacle is cost for doing anything in technological domain. Second one is convenience, and third one is control. Before we go deep dive into all of those elements, let's understand like how this whole energy control transformation journey has evolved over a period of time. If you go back, initially there was pretty much no control on the energy. Fossil fuels, people used to burn whenever they like, whenever they need energy, and boom, turn it off afterwards whenever they don't need it. So there was no control or concept of savings. It was purely a utility driven mindset. Next came the manual on-off type of switches with electricity. Whenever we need something, we turn it on. Whenever we don't need something, we turn it on. Purely manual, simple to understand. But then something called smartness arrived in the electrical domain. The clap switches came around, the snap switches came around, and lots of timer-based control came in. So those were the really smartness in the on-off controls of the switching, lighting, energy domain. Moving beyond, the controls moved into the cost domain. So when we switched from incandescent to the LED lighting system, naturally the biggest motivator was cost and longevity, obviously, but longevity mapped into cost. So the cost control was the primary driver for moving to the LEDs as a domain. But then came, even beyond LED, then came the automation of dusk to dawn and other kind of automated timer-based mechanisms to control the lights and the energy throughout the world. And then we saw an era of green energy, solar powered, wind power, any other kind of hybrid energy generation and switching mechanism. So try to utilize the best form of energy you can, the cheapest form of energy you can at any given point in time in a day, automatically, systematically switching back and forth. Those were the control systems of the past and current decade. But moving forward, this is the era of intelligent and sensible energy, not just smart. Smart is not enough. Has to be intelligent, it has to be common sense driven, sensible energy and control usage. So what is the element of that sensible energy? What we believe in voice AI is providing that biggest catalyst in making the transition from smart to intelligent energy controls. Voice is that element which makes this transition possible. But as we saw before, there are still three challenges, the topmost challenges that need to be addressed even for this voice AI to catch up in this world. And these challenges span across the consumer domain, the customer domain basically, and the manufacturer also. These challenges are not only for the customer or not only for the manufacturer. We need to address and tackle the problem in a holistic manner, that it has to be addressing both sides of the coin. So let's take the first challenge of cost. What are some of the elements, some of the requirements from the customer perspective? As you can see in the slide, customers would typically ask for, hey, the purchase price has to be very, very low. I don't want to spend a lot of money. Obviously, that is the biggest customer benchmark. Then obviously the cost of learning the how part of it, like how do you want to learn? Simple switches, not a problem, but more and more smart, intelligent devices coming to the world, coming to the landscape day in and day out, they have some learning curve. So people need to invest in those. And especially if the customer is the large enterprise or corporate with like 100,000, 200,000 employees, then the learning cost of how to operate a given piece of equipment or given piece of lighting, given piece of switches, that matters a lot because huge costs are involved in learning the how part of it. The third element is obviously the operations part of it, the maintenance, the housekeeping, the babysitting part of hardware and software, like what you're doing. From a customer point of view, they would like to minimize the cost. And last but not the least, obviously the routine electricity bill, what the hard cash they will shell out day in, day out, week after week, month after month. But on the flip side, if you look at it, on the manufacturer side, the challenges are no longer simple. Manufacturers have to worry about parts and labor. They have to bring down the bottom line, obviously the cost as part of cost challenge. They have to take care of the supply chain as well, try to source in the least pandemic affected region in the world, for example, taking today's context, you cannot rely on only one country or one geography to source all your components. You have to be more resilient in sourcing your supply chain components. Firmware development, somebody will have to pay for the software or the brains of the applications for the smart intelligent devices. They are not mechanical things that work on their own. They might have to develop some sort of mobile app, dashboard apps, and those sort of things. And for manufacturers also, the operations and maintenance, like how do you keep track of safety, security of their customers, that also comes into picture. And one of the biggest cost element for manufacturers or distributors that is the post sales cost. Like how many customer calls or emails or chat messages are you receiving once you have sold a batch of devices. So all those things converge into the cost related challenges for customer side and on the manufacturer side. So cost, when we say cost as one of the topmost challenges, it has this like 10, 15, 20 subdomains underneath, and they need to be addressed properly if we really want to make the leap to the next level of energy transformation and the control transformation. Let's take the second challenge. What is that? That's the convenience challenge. Similar to the cost challenge, the convenience challenge also has two components. One for the customer side and other one for the manufacturer side. So customer side, it's easy to understand. It's like, okay, it has to be less cognitive overhead. Okay, I don't want to learn a lot of new things on the smartness. I don't want to operate the mobile apps and those sort of things. It has to be intuitive enough. I don't have to do things in a very specific manner. The system should be flexible enough that I should be able to control in any which way. And voice is a great example of that. Whether you say, hey, turn on the switch, or whether you say grammatically completely incorrect, that on, turn, switch, that's perfectly fine for the voice domain, but not for the highly structured control domain. So customer convenience is one. Second part is the choice of the AI. Some people like Alexa, some people like Google, some people like Samsung, some people like nothing, and some people like everything. So how do you cater to all those diverse choices of customers? The third thing is it has to be hygienic and contactless, especially in the post-COVID world. We want to support and we want to provide the devices and systems that are as much touchless, as much contactless, and as much hygienic as possible. Why do you need to touch something if you don't have to? And customers are starting to prefer that as well, especially in the public places. Then the fourth element is it has to be like multi-age, multi-language, multilingual kind of systems, right? I mean, we are dealing with this system, household systems particularly, where 3 or 4 generations are staying together, especially during these lockdowns or shelter in place times. And everybody should be feeling comfortable. Sometimes we are seeing that the older generation is not comfortable with operating the smart mobile apps, which are having highly complicated, sometimes like feature-rich UIs, versus the younger generation. They are very well versed. Like kids operate things like very quickly, very fast. But what we need when we are thinking about generational shifts in this electrical control elements, the lighting control elements, again, voice comes to an example. Everybody is familiar with voice, everybody is comfortable, like, hey, you just say the commands, doesn't matter which way, which language you say the commands in, system will take care of the rest. So that's like big benefit of voice as a control system. And last but not the least, again, the system has to be secure. Along with the convenience, customers want things which are secure. They don't want their data to be leaked over to the internet or being hijacked by any other cyber terrorism organization or anything like that. And the same challenges exist for manufacturers as well. So offering all those customer demands in a very cheap, cost-effective manner, that's the topmost manufacturer's pain point. In addition to that, the manufacturer's pain point is to provide this like multi-dimensional solutions, multi-purpose solutions. So same solution should work not just for the residential customers, but also for the commercial and industrial players as well. Only then they get the benefit and the scale, the economies of scale in mass production of systems without much of a babysitting. So convenience to manufacturers is that how they can repurpose and reuse the same set of subsystems for more than one domain. So that's the second challenge of convenience for both customers and manufacturers. Moving on to the third challenge, that's the control part. And there also it's like two segments. So customers, they want data ownership, or at least the visibility into where the data is going, where information about their household patterns or their behavioral things are ending up into. They want privacy, they want brand protection, especially the corporate customers who are into private label, who are into white labeled business. They want to rely on hardware and software which offer them full brand protection. They don't want anybody to damage their brand just because they are using cheaper components in hardware and software, or they are using some countries' components which are not of the great quality, something like that, right? So, and on the control side, customers also want this multi-dimensional control. They should be able to operate a piece of equipment with not only with voice or voice AI, they should be able to operate it with mobile apps. They should be able to operate it with like physical touch if nothing fails. And if anything and nothing else fails, I mean, there has to be backup systems in place, right? So customers want this multi-dimensional controls as well. And on the manufacturer side, again, offering all of this without additional pain. That's like the biggest pain point for the manufacturers. But dealing with the corporate espionage, that's another big thing for manufacturers. Like, how do they protect themselves against corporate espionage or cyber terrorism elements, which often keep them hostage to their data leakage or their stealing their IPs and those sort of things. Second challenge for manufacturers in terms of control is they want some decoupling from this voice AI providers. Yes, Google, Alexa, Samsung, all of them are great, but they are into software domain versus this hardware manufacturer. Sometimes the impedance mismatch is not obvious. Things in the hardware domain, they don't move at the same speed as the software domain, and they need to be adjusted accordingly. So how do these manufacturers make themselves as decoupled from these voice AI providers as possible while keeping them future proof? So today there may be like 2 or 3 primary voice assistants, and manufacturers like start manufacturing, supporting their devices with those many voice assistants, for example. Tomorrow, few months down the road, 5th or 6th or 7th voice assistants comes into picture on the landscape. What do manufacturers do? What about the devices they have previously sold? They can support things from that point onwards, but what about the devices they just sold last month or last quarter or last year? So there are platforms which require and which facilitate the future proofing mechanism. So manufacturers need to look deeper into those sort of platforms in order to make their lives easier and actually control this element or challenge of control. And that's where we at Speak to IoT strive to make a difference. We try to manage all these 3 elements of cost, convenience, and control without any additional pain points, with seamless transparency for both customers as well as for the manufacturers. And that's our secret sauce. We have a patent pending solutions in US PTO to take care of this multi-platform voice AI, which can cater to any kind of systems, not just the smart IoT devices in your homes or corporate offices or anywhere else, but many other subsystems as well. In short, we need to provide humanized digital experiences, and that's what we try to do as part of Speak to IoT offerings. As you can see on the right hand side of the slide, there could be IoT devices which needs to be controlled through the medium of voice, or that could be corporate workflows that need to be digitized, need to be voicified for a variety of things, whether it's a shortcut to some lengthy task or automating certain process that do 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 10 steps. Somebody should be able to invoke a voice command that, hey, just do it, and let the system figure out the complicated 10-step process behind the scenes, instead of putting that burden on the end user, so making it cognitively simple for the end user. And the last one is the human experiences, whether you're calling a customer service representative on a call, or whether you are doing something else in your household, you need to service an equipment, and how do you extract the history of how the equipment has been behaving, or how do you reach out to the right people, bouncing off from person to person. Any kind of human interaction, voice AI makes people's lives easier. And as part of this central Speak to IoT platform, we have this patent pending platform which work across the board seamlessly with popular voice assistants like Google Assistant or Amazon Alexa or Samsung Bixby SmartThings, all of them. And it is future proof, by the way. So if fourth, fifth, sixth player comes into the market tomorrow, we are readily supporting that. As soon as we turn it on in our cloud, manufacturing partners that are working with us, or even the consumers who are using their products, they don't have to do a single line of change. They don't have to undergo any pain point to support that new voice assistant which just came in today in the marketplace. All of their previously sold devices 6 months, 1 year previously, they will also suddenly become compatible and enabled with this new voice assistant using our technology. And if you look at on the left hand side, for the end user, it provides a complete digital lifestyle experience, not just fragmented that, hey, I'm able to use only the devices, smart devices in my home, but if I go in my corporate environment, it's like some 20 years, 30 years backward environment that I'm stepping in. No, the experience has to be seamless, because ultimately it's a human-centric experience that we're talking about here. And the digital transformation has to support the human-powered transformation to begin with. So whether somebody at home is wishing to do, let's say, play movie X, or pay my bill, or turn off my AC, turn off my device, turn on the lights, or turn on the lights only for 5 minutes, or turn on the lights for 10 minutes, any kind of things which you can think of intelligently, we can provide using Speak to IoT backbone platform. And that's the power of voice IoT, the sound of light in literal sense. Speaking in different terms, it is an intelligent, holistic digitalization. A lot of people are talking about digital transformation and digitalization, but how many of them are actually talking about holistic transformation? Not only holistic, but intelligent and holistic digital transformation. And that's what we offer to the rest of the world along all these three coordinates, whether it's intelligent homes, or intelligent enterprises or corporates, or whether it's intelligent industries. Speak to IoT and Smart India, we work and we have covered all the bases to make people's lives really smart, easy and intelligent. Not just customers, but also of the manufacturers, because for us, they are our partners, they are our customers. Speaking of intelligent homes, for example, just some of the use cases, some of the examples you can see on screen, whether it's like a Smart India powered IoT devices, which can be controlled with voice, mobile apps, touch, any of those things, or it could be just like set-top box in your home, or a smart router in your home. It could be voice powered consumer services for the billing and customer support, or it could be anything that you can imagine. So we provide made in India, made in USA hardware and software to take care of this intelligent home domain with our manufacturing partners to support the customers. For example, these are like some of the products that we are selling right now, the smart touch based switches, and they're ready for private label. So any manufacturing partner wants to leverage Speak to IoT Smart India platforms, they're more than welcome to do so. We would love to engage with them, but the goal is to provide a future-proof, all-in-one holistic platform for Google, Alexa, Samsung, and it's future-proof in nature. So customers or manufacturers, they don't have to undergo any software-related pain, firmware-related pain, mobile app-related pain in their lives. Make their lives really simple, cost-effective, and convenient, with full of control as well. Same way, intelligent enterprises. As you can see, there are many other use cases powered by voice AI for making the enterprises intelligent. For example, the IoT sensors, they are not only in the homes, they are various places in the corporate environment as well. Smoke detectors, alarms, water leakage sensors, carbon monoxide sensors, any of those things are already present, and the harmful gas or chemical sensors, custom, they are already there in the specific places. But any kind of IoT or connected sensors, they can be voice managed, and you can respond using voice AI to cater to the need of the day. One specific example, the pandemic-proof campuses, especially in the post-pandemic era, as things are getting back to normal in most of the world. Obviously there are still challenges, but moving forward, we need to provide environments where people feel safe and comfortable, and we provide an environment which is hygienic, which is contactless. They don't have to worry about touching, getting closer to the people unnecessarily, and have the risk of being infected by viruses, right? Same thing goes in the workplace safety, with finding out people count, how many people are there in any given part of the campus, any given part of the building, rooms, etc. Or providing touchless asset locations, like, hey, where can I find my hand pump, where can I find my emergency cart or emergency ventilators, or where can I find X or Y, or even some individuals as well. All those things are possible using voice AI and Speak to IoT platform. And energy optimizations in particular, speaking of those intelligent buildings, yes, that's also possible, because now you have much more a learning system behind the scene, which not only works on your commands, but it offers you suggestions as well, that hey, by the way, there are only 5 people instead of 50 people in a given area of the company, so maybe you might want to reduce the LED brightness to 50% or 25%, because that's just effectively the same. For those set of people, you don't need to waste a lot of money for higher powered brightness. So those are the things, those are the choices which are possible for both customers and manufacturers or operators of the smart intelligent enterprises. And here, I mean, it is way big domain. So we are partnering with corporate giants and infrastructure provider companies like Cisco, like Juniper Mist, to ride on top of their existing Wi-Fi infrastructure. So the IT people's lives, it's seamless, it's simple. So for an IT person, there is no other company called Smart India coming into their system at all, or there is no other company called Speak to IoT that is coming into their system. All they see is their existing systems powered by either Cisco or Juniper Mist or Meraki or Aruba, whatever the player is. We are working with them all and riding on top of the existing infrastructures to reduce and eliminate the pain point they might otherwise have in their lives. And some of the demo links you can see with our partnerships, and we are official technology partners for both Juniper Mist and Cisco systems as we speak in deploying the smart intelligent enterprises. And the third area is intelligent industries. Why should we limit the intelligent voice and AI solutions, the lighting solutions, the energy solutions to only the homes and corporates? Intelligent industries also have many use cases. As you can see, the hands-free operations, the voice, the power of voice is really, it provides an additional channel. It provides an efficient channel as well. So when somebody is carrying or lifting things with their hands, they are operating on some machinery, they can still utilize their voice to command and control the other pieces of equipment, to summon the things at their disposal. So that's the power of voice as an additional channel, and it is way faster than anybody can type. You can talk much faster than you can type, typically speaking. So voice is an efficient channel by those means as well. So some of the use cases, as you see, on the air quality and leak detections and the enterprise training programs and the whole bunch of things, but the essence of it all is like remote monitoring and operations. That is the real power of the voice for industries, making intelligent industries possible. And some of the demo links that you see on screen right now is like, we have been doing some proof of concepts and the paid projects with some of our partners to provide this hands-free, safe, seamless operations, the field operations, the holistic field operations. When somebody is operating, let's say, a giant turbine or a heavy or complicated piece of machinery. Now, if something goes wrong, at that point in time, we need to provide them holistic solution to solve their problem right then and there, whether it's like measuring, tuning some sensor, fixing some levels, touching some additional piece of switches or machineries, or referring to some manuals or with additional information, or ordering the parts and putting something on in the pipeline. So all those things should be possible using a complete holistic voice experience right then and there in the interest of time, right? So all those things are absolutely possible, and that's where we see as the voice is really that new spark. Voice is that really the new form of energy that we need to capture and make the world a better place for all of us here. And with that, I would like to comment at last is the sound of light. We have all heard it, whether it's Alexa or Google or Samsung or any other player that comes into picture. We have heard the capabilities and the possibilities of the sound of light. Now let's learn more about it. Let's live up to that. Let's capitalize that opportunity for our businesses, for our residential customers, corporate customers, industrial customers, partners, manufacturers, for everybody, the whole ecosystem. Live according to those benefits, and then actually lead the industrial transformation for developing and deploying the sound of light. Thank you very much for inviting me, having me over here today. Thank you.